Welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you an update on the Trump Muslim celebrating 9/11 claim, news about code abatement actions in the city, the police department request for our help to locate a suspect, presidential poll updates, today's gas prices, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. The D.C. media has spent the last 2 weeks attempting to destroy Donald Trump. They are doing so in order to protect a 14-year-old cover-up. Not only have eyewitnesses and contemporaries reports proven Donald Trump 100% correct about Muslims celebrating 9/11, a just uncovered local CBS News, that's WCBS-TV in New York, report vindicates Trump's claim of Muslims celebrating the fall of the World Trade Center. The video is from a September 16, 2001 news report. I have to say, the quality of this video is not great, and as it is in the old analog video and audio format. But as you watch and listen, the facts become clear.
Back on this sixth night, the work does continue there, the crater and all that destruction downtown.
Upon President Bush's return to the White House today from Camp David, he vowed to get the evildoers, saying they had made a terrible, terrible mistake in assuming that the U.S. would not take immediate action. Pablo Guzman is here now, the latest on the investigation. We have arrests and arrest warrants. Pablo?
Todd, Dana, step by step it happens. Now, most of you know that yesterday the FBI raided an apartment in Jersey City where 2 men lived who were pulled off a train in Texas and are now back in New York, being held in connection with Tuesday's attacks. Ayub Ali Khan, 51, and Mohammed Jawi Azma, 47, taken off the train they had boarded after their flight out of Newark, like every other flight in America, was ordered down after the attacks in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania. However, what no one outside the terrorist task force knows is that just a couple of blocks away from that Jersey City apartment the FBI raided yesterday and where they had evidence removed is another apartment building, one that investigators told me, quote, is swarming with suspects. Suspects who I'm told were cheering on the roof when they saw the plane slam into the trade center. Now, police were called to the building by other neighbors and found 8 men celebrating, 6 of them tenants in the building. The FBI and other terrorist task force agencies then arrived, and the older investigators on the task force recalled that they had been to this building before, 8 years ago, when the first World Trade Center attack led them to Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, whose Jersey City mosque lies between the 2 buildings getting attention today. And the older investigators remembered that suspects who eventually got convicted for the first Trade Center case, followers of Sheikh Rahman, lived in the building where these same 8 men were celebrating the destruction that they saw from the roof. Calling this a hot address, the task force investigators ordered everyone detained. And they saw something else, a model of the Trade Center on the roof, along with sets of binoculars, the kind of model used by an architect or an engineer for a presentation, an investigator told me. They knew, he said, that the planes were going to hit, and they wanted a ringside seat. Remember, part of what motivates Osama bin Laden against the United States, he has told followers, is that the United States put Sheikh Rahman in jail. Bin Laden has said that for that, the U.S. must pay.
Yeah. Todd? Pablo, it's absolutely chilling the fact that they were sitting there waiting, watching, getting ready to celebrate the fact that the Twin Towers would topple.
You know, the first investigators on the scene, after the first police, and even the first FBI agents didn't realize the scope of what happened. They thought maybe these guys thought they were cheering a fireworks display. But when the other investigators saw the model, saw the binoculars, and remembered that address and what it really meant to the first Trade Center bombing, that's when they said, we got to grab everybody.
All right, Pablo. Thank you. Pablo Guzman.
So that's the news about the Trump claim of Muslims celebrating 9/11 attacks and really supporting his claims. One news source said that the claim of thousands and thousands is probably an exaggeration, but there is clear evidence that many were celebrating. In an update on the Dale Howard code abatement case, it was recently reported that Mr. Howard still has chickens on his property. This is in violation of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code and a court order to remove all fowl by December 1st. The receiver states they got a report from someone that there were chickens on the property. Mr. Howard has requested a delay to December 9th to relocate the chickens. The receiver stated there would be no delay. Either he removes the chickens voluntarily or they will be forcibly removed. Just as a recap on this case, it has been an ongoing case to have Mr. Howard remove tons of stuff from his residence and many vacant lots he owns out in Ridgecrest Heights. The storage of all the stuff has been in violation of the Ridgecrest Municipal Code and Health and Safety Codes. This has been a dispute between the city and Mr. Howard for over 10 years. After a lengthy battle in the courts, last year the courts issued a final order for Mr. Howard to remove all the code violations, or a receiver would be appointed to come in and do it. Eventually, a receiver had to be appointed and the cleanup began. It is probably now about 90% complete, much to the happiness of his neighbors, and we'll keep you posted on this long-standing issue. In another code abatement case, Fred Booth, Ridgecrest Police Department Code Enforcement Officer, notified KZGN that another abatement was being executed on a rundown old building this week. The old building was located at 127 West Wilson. The old home had been abandoned and had fallen on disrepair. All the windows were broken out and doors removed. It had attracted homeless people to use it for shelter. At one point, when Booth went out to investigate, he actually found a person in the building with no water or power. He called officers to get the man removed. After attempts to locate the owner or other family, there was no contact, so Booth took the abatement to the Ridgecrest Planning Commission for a forced abatement authority. The Planning Commission approved the abatement, so the property is now being cleaned up. In news from the Ridgecrest Police Department, they are asking for the public's help in locating a suspect wanted in a series of large thefts. The suspect is Nicholas Stiles. On December 1st at approximately 8:30 a.m., the victim of a stolen $30,000 shale shaker located the equipment partially hidden in the 1000 block of South County Line Road in San Bernardino County. While the victim was examining the property, a man drove up and challenged the victim being on the property. The man then fled in a brown pickup truck when the victim threatened to call the police. The police officers and detectives arrived from the Ridgecrest Police Department. They responded to the area and located the truck at 1205 City View in Kern County. The truck and residence it was located on were registered to Nicholas Stiles. Officers confirmed the residence belonged to Stiles and conducted a probation search. Officers and detectives located more stolen property belonging to 3 additional thefts and burglaries. The value of the property recovered exceeded $40,000. Stiles was not at the location at the residence, so the police department is asking for our help in locating this man. If you have any information on Stiles' location, please call the Ridgecrest Police Department. Information can be provided anonymously if you desire to be unknown. Call the Ridgecrest Police Department at 760-499-5100. In the latest in the presidential campaigns, we get the most recent poll results. These are numbers from Real Clear Politics. They use 5 major polling services and combine them into an average. This is believed to be a more accurate representation of the country, as all the major polls are combined and then averaged. So the sample is bigger and more broad. In the Republican presidential campaign, the latest numbers show Trump at 27%, Rubio at 17%, Cruz and Carson at 16%, Bush at 5%, Fiorina at 3%, Christie at 3%, and with Huckabee, Kasich, and Paul all at 2%. All the rest are too low to have real numbers. The pollsters say that while Trump's basic number is staying steady, the others below him are splitting all the other votes. In the Democratic campaign, we find these numbers: Clinton at 60%, Sanders at 30%, O'Malley at 2%. Clinton clearly is the national leader there. In head-to-head matchups, all the results are very tight, but most pollsters feel that these head-to-head matchups will not be dependable until the field gets much smaller and more is known about the candidates. And of course, there is a never-ending question as to whether the FBI will be handing down indictments against Clinton. That could change everything in this race. Of course, the Clinton supporters will all cry foul and assert the effort as a political campaign to destroy her bid to be president. And then there are others predicting that with Biden out of the race, the White House will not allow the FBI to bring charges until the elections are over. So the race goes on to the first caucus to be held in just 60 days now in Iowa. Yep, you heard me right. Just 60 days until the campaign really gets going. And for the latest from Congressman McCarthy on the Trump run for president, we get this report. It's being reported this week that establishment Republicans are in a sense of panic over GOP frontrunner Donald Trump's steady hold at the top of the polls. But Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy said today he believes Americans just want someone who will shake up the nation's capital. Regardless of whether somebody makes somebody uncomfortable, I think the American people want to see something shaken up in Washington. Whoever is running, that could be Senator Rubio or Cruz, they can shake up things as well. Trump this morning topped a new Quinnipiac University poll with 27% of the vote. But come January, McCarthy said the polls could look much different. But Trump does hold many attributes voters are seeking, and many of his backers will continue to support him through and through. McCarthy said, "I think you have to look at attributes, what attributes people are looking for. He does show strength. He's an entrepreneur, and he's willing to change Washington." Also in the poll, what I read a lot into is the rise of Rubio and Senator Cruz. I think you're going to see those two continue to rise. They're fresh faces. They also bear a lot of those attributes that Donald has. Trump has had many controversial statements, including about 9/11 on immigration. But McCarthy said that each individual has to run his or her own campaign. The Majority Leader said he has not endorsed Trump or anybody else, and he believes there are a lot of people who can be president and be a very good president. But as a Republican, he said he believes in the late Ronald Reagan 11th commandment about not fighting against fellow Republicans. McCarthy closed with this: "I will tell you, from all those candidates, I think they would be a better president than what Hillary Clinton would be." Now an update on the snowpack in the high Sierra Mountains of California. Measurements of the Sierra Nevada snowpack yesterday showed more snow than surveyors recorded a year ago, but state water officials said it was far from enough to signal a potential end to California's continuing drought. Although this year's survey shows a deeper snowpack than last year, California needs much more rain and snow than we've experienced over the past 2 years to end the drought. Department of Water Resources Director Mark Cowan said snowpack accounts for about a third of the state's water supply when it melts in the late spring and summer and replenishes reservoirs. Another year of reduced snowpack levels leaves water officials worried that agricultural areas could face another difficult, dry year. Last year, only 9.3 inches of snow covered the ground, or about 2.3 inches of water, according to state data. On average, through January 1st, snowpack water content there is about triple Tuesday's reading. The snowpack is constantly monitored by electronic sensors at about 100 points across the Sierra. Manual checks like Tuesday's will be conducted once a month through the beginning of May to supplement and verify the electronic readings, DWR officials said. Tuesday's manual readings of about 33% of average were less than electronic readings had generated. Electronic readings estimated that snowpack statewide was as much as 50% of normal. It came in looking even more dismal, Doug Carlson, a State Department of Water Resources spokesman, said of the manual measurement. "The snow isn't as wet as we'd like. There's not enough of the snow to give us confidence that we're having an exceptionally wet year." In each of the last 3 years, snowpack was essentially depleted by early May, according to state data. "It's early in the season with plenty of time for the snowpack to build," DWR said in a statement. The concern, however, is that farms and some other areas will be hard hit if water year 2015 ends as the fourth full year of drought. A sizable snowpack will be necessary to keep reservoirs filled when temperatures rise and rain becomes scarce. Recent storms, though, have brought some hope for relief, dumping unusually large amounts of rain on California. The Water Resource Department measures precipitation at 8 stations in the northern Sierra and had recorded 22.8 inches of rain as of Tuesday morning, or 131% of normal for the date. Water experts have said the state would need about 75 inches of rain at the 8 stations by September 30th to end the drought. Water officials said they would have a better idea of whether the drought could end by the end of February, halfway through the winter rain season. Seeing rain and snow isn't necessarily believing that we're out of the drought, Carlson said. The drought continues until our measurements and our eyeballs tell us that we're out. So we wait to see if the El Nino really comes. We really do need the rain and snowpack. And don't forget, if you're interested in this week's City Council meeting, it is tonight and starts right after the news. One of the things they'll be discussing is the banning of cultivation of marijuana in the city. Right now, dispensaries are already prohibited within city limits. This revision will close another loophole in the issue concerning medical marijuana. you can still make it down there if you'd like. I'll be there. Now in KZGN's continuous effort to provide news and information you've asked for, here are today's gas prices for Ridgecrest and some surrounding areas. Well, since my last report on Monday, gas prices have held steady. As of this morning, Ridgecrest is still ranging from $2.69 to $2.99, Lancaster from $2.69 to $2.99, LA Valley area $2.57 to $2.79, and the Bishop area $2.71 to $2.99. We have 4 stations sitting at the $2.69 amount. Tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for our updates. We at KZGN always suggest you shop locally to support our local economy. Remember, when you pay sales tax out of town, you're helping those cities pave their streets instead of here. Now stay with us for weather and sports when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to Lane for the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, locally heavy rain will continue across parts of the southeast and mid-Atlantic on Wednesday, with flash flooding possible across parts of the southern Appalachians. Meanwhile, a storm system moving onshore will affect parts of the Pacific Northwest and northern California with damaging winds, heavy rain, and higher elevation snow, as well as freezing rain for parts of Washington and Oregon. Temperatures across the nation: Carolinas at 67, Georgia at 56, Arkansas at 52, northern Texas at 54, Arizona at 61, and LA at 82. And for us locally, tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 36, southeast wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 66, east-southeast wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday night, mostly cloudy with a low around 37, southwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 63, southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night, partly cloudy with a low around 35, northwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday, sunny with a high near 62, northeast wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 33, east wind 5 miles per hour. And Sunday, mostly sunny with a high near 61, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now here's Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Wednesday early evening to everyone. Let's talk about Major League Baseball. I know it's winter time, but David Price, maybe one of the richest men in the world, come this weekend when he signs officially with the Boston Red Sox. 7-year deal, $217 million. It used to be $217 million would buy you a franchise. It used to be $217 million could probably buy you an island. But that's what the price is for David Price to play with the Red Sox. NCAA football, top 4, Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Iowa. In both polls, the coaches and the AP. So if things ended today, which they aren't, the big games this weekend, those 4 teams would be in the BCS Championship Series. That's going to be held on New Year's Eve. Clemson still undefeated. Iowa still undefeated. All right, on the outside looking in, Michigan State, they are 11 wins and 1 loss. Ohio State also 11 and 1. Ohio State destroyed Michigan up in Ann Arbor this past week, and boy, that was a lopsided game. Very surprised to see that one. Also, give Oklahoma credit. They easily beat Oklahoma State in Stillwater, and Clemson just continues to roll on. Boy, they're tough both offensively and defensively. They'll be tested, though, on Saturday. They host number 8 North Carolina. Now, North Carolina's only lost 1 game themselves. They are 11 and 1. Another big game this weekend, Florida and Alabama. That game will be played at Alabama. Florida, number 18 in the land, had only lost 1 game prior to last weekend. They sure didn't look good against Florida State. Could only muster up 2 points, 1 safety. Another big game is Temple and Houston. Houston, number 17 in the land. They're playing for a good bowl game. Now, Houston beat Navy, Navy's first loss of the season. And then West Virginia against a very disappointing Kansas State. Kansas State 5-6. They need to win to be bowl eligible. All right, let's talk about basketball. The Lakers, 2 wins, 14 losses. Having a tough time, but they are playing against the 76ers. So maybe the Lakers will come up with the W. The 76ers has lost their first 18 games of the season. And talk about teams winning games, the Golden State Warriors are 19-0. 19-0. That sets an NBA record for the best start ever of a team in the early season. That's crazy. 19-0. Cavaliers having a good start, 13-4. They lead the Central. The Heat 10-6, making a comeback this year. They lead the Southeast. The Thunder at 11-7 lead the Northwest. And don't forget the Spurs, 14-4 right now. They lead the Southwest. Clippers 10-8. I think they're going to have a good run towards the end. I think the Clippers will be one of the top 4 teams from the West come playoff time. That's your sports for this Wednesday afternoon. For KZGN, I am Tom Heck.
So that's the news for today. All of the KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Now stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.